Well, they've got the longest history, I think, of any team out there in the Pro League. Here you go. We can see the bans and the picks for this match. ENCE are going to be the first ones to ban, Supremacy the second ones to ban. But yeah, we didn't get much of a chance to talk about ENCE, so I will touch on them after the ban phase. But Skyscraper, Coastline, Cafe are going to be ENCE's bans. Supremacy, they're going to eliminate Chalet, Consulate, and Clubhouse. So we're left with Bank, Border, Oregon. Two very common maps that we often see. In fact, I think we've been seeing them very, very much in the relegations. And Bank, a little bit of an oddity, will be left as your decider for this best of 3.
Yeah, Border and Oregon are so strange to see as the two maps that we're going to play on. It feels like we've gone most of the season without them. It's been just a litany of like skyscrapers and coastlines and, you know. No? Okay. Skyscraper first ban for ENCE. This seems like some comfort picks on their end. Chalet for Supremacy is a counter pick. I am a little interested that ENCE is going to go to Border because ENCE has frankly not looked good on Border this season at all. They've been beaten on Border across the entire map by their opponents. If you recall their match against Vitality, they lost on every single site. So, but I mean, it's
on Supremacy side, I see counter bans. On ENCE's side, I see preference bans. And what that means is that Supremacy are, I'd say they are in control of this ban phase. They definitely have something that's going to work for them better, and I agree with you. I think ENCE picking Border, not only letting Border get through the ban phase, but picking it means that it's maybe not the best ban phase for them.
And both teams opted on attack as well for their first push. So, I mean, we're going to see right away on Border how practiced ENCE can be on attack, because if you recall, the last couple times we saw ENCE attack on Border, they were uncoordinated, to use one term for them. They weren't droning effectively. There was a lot of solo entrying. There was a couple times where we would see Ying, Smokes, and Candelas that would net absolutely nothing because the rest of the team wouldn't be around. It was very similar to the way that CLG was conducting some of their strats, almost independently of one another, and not being able to be as in sync with the rest of your teammates is a killer in this level of play.
And the story of CLG is in many ways similar to the story of ENCE in recent times. You know, ENCE has got a longer history in the PC side of Pro League, but CLG, the actual players on that team have been playing since the beginning, or for most of them anyway, on, if not PC, Xbox, you know, and these two squads now, I mean, CLG being relegated, potentially ENCE being relegated, where once they were both titans in the region. And so it's, you know, it's something similar. And I would say their strategies have been also, again, a little bit reflective of each other. Not, of course, by any direct, there's no correlation there, really. I don't think they're scrim partners per se, but at the same time, a lot of similar mistakes. As you say, not droning out those roamers, not clearing them very efficiently, lack of communication clearly based upon where the utility is being placed. Just in general, some things that need to be shored up. And there's still time, of course, for ENCE to shore up those holes in this match and keep their place in Pro League.
So we'll see what the community thought in terms of results between these matchups. Do you have faith that ENCE has fixed what was broken? Do you think that Supremacy is going to continue on the strengths that they have built in Challenger League? The answer is pretty emphatic. No to Supremacy, yes to ENCE. 69 to 31% in favor of the Finns and defending seasonal champions. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's not that the community has been infallible so far. They've gotten it wrong a couple times. They've gone with the sure bet, I believe, as you've said before, and it hasn't really worked out, especially given the fact that, as you pointed out earlier on, Yeah Gaming is the only Pro League team who has retained their spot so far. That is pretty seismic. But
yeah.
If you liked what you saw in the community vote, if you enjoyed the match previously and you wanted to vote in the MVP, let's remind you that there are ways to connect with us. You can connect on either Facebook or Twitter. Go onto one of the two social media platforms and you can find out scheduling, you can find out information on upcoming events, matches, highlight clips, etc. And then, of course, vote for your which team you think is going to win in a matchup and which player in that matchup was the MVP.
Yeah, and that MVP vote will happen after the match. Who you think is going to win the match will happen before the match. And here we go. We're loading into Border, map number 1. And yet again, it is going to be Supremacy starting on defense and starting on attack. Armory, your first bomb site as per usual. no surprises whatsoever, we've got a Twitch on ENCE's side. So Twitch, an operator that doesn't see nearly as much play as of late, yet so very useful in clearing out those mirror windows. We also have the Hibana, but no Thermite. Now, we talked about this actually last time we saw Border played yesterday, you and I. We were talking about how Thermite is an operator that is universally useful here on this map. No matter what site you're attacking, there's almost always a wall you can open with a Thermite charge that will help your team a lot. Lack of that Thermite for ENCE is going to, of course, hinder them somewhat, but you can get away with just a Hibana.
Yeah, I'm looking at ENCE's lineup, and I have a couple questions. Very strange to see that you're going to rely exclusively on Wilkie to put that pressure beneath the site as the buck. No Ashe or Zofia there. All right. No Thermite as well is a bit strange, running both the Thatcher as well as the Twitch.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Twitch's focus is going to be not just general gadget destruction, but also taking care of those mirrors, something that if you look here, you see that the Thatcher can do, but I mean, I would wager that this is being set up so that the Twitch drone can't possibly come in, but the mirror goes on the other side of it, so that is intriguing to say the least.
We've also got Dokabi coming in, and an operator that's seen a very heavy buff in pick rate recently because of the smokes being removed from Ying, and Dokabi having those in hand. But that's your primary disruption. In fact, really, it's your only disruption on the entire ENCE lineup. They have a very lopsided attacking lineup, and it is definitely confusing, but they can make it work. They have all the tools, just where they've chosen to invest in certain tools the most are maybe not ideal for this attack, or any attack on Border for that matter. Whereas on the Supremacy side, you have a very standard defensive lineup, and usually on defense, you don't have nearly as much potential for variation, so that's not surprising.
You at least have a formidable killing machine in the hands of Kanto Riquetti in the FAMAS. Of course, he usually will play an operator that is primed and ready to get some frags, and of course his Twitch drone will find the first Mira, and that will be alive, losing his black mirror. That's a good win right now for that Twitch drone for ENCE. Yeah,
Kanto, one of the most well-known fraggers in the European region, really proving his utility usage is on point there with that Twitch drone. You know, there's a lot of Twitches out there who just struggle to get the mirror windows. They're usually diligently watched by the defenders, but not so for Kanto in this round. Narrowly missing a shot onto the moving Mira there. That is alive, but a difficult shot to hit no matter who you are.
And the Valkyrie cam outside that was thrown by Anthrax will be found as well. So there's some utility that has been removed, but still, Supremacy in good position. Kanto will be the first casualty as phone calls ring out to all members of Supremacy. And they find their first lead, but rotate from Alive. Very strange. Wilkie gets a freebie on that one, and K6 eliminating Uno. Wilkie will find his second kill before being murdered inside of the bomb site. K6 jumps in again. That's Benari down, and it's all up to Boonsy. We talked about a lack of coordinated pushes, and they are just all over the place, and Supremacy can just envelop the last remaining player in Boonsy, and that's what they'll do. They see his shot go through archives. They're just going to wait if he's going to push in, and they'll circle the wagons, waiting. And a pop-up from Anthrax, and ENCE will fall on round number 1. A good hold from Supremacy. We make it look easy.
Yeah, I'd say lack of coordination is definitely one of the stories there for ENCE. There were some pretty massive mistakes made by Supremacy as well, but not nearly as many. I mean, that push from, I believe it was Anthrax on the Mira. No, sorry, it was Alive on the Mira, pushing out of the A wall into CCTV, clearly trying to flank the attackers, not expecting anyone to be in CCTV. But it was bad timing and an unnecessary move. So, regardless, a victory for Supremacy despite that mistake. However, after that, Wilkie was allowed to walk in through the A wall and get another frag before being shut down finally. So that could have been an absolute comeback from ENCE had the frontal assault over an office been even a little bit successful. You can see ENCE, only Wilkie was the got any kills in that round. So yeah, frontal assault falling apart. The flank almost successful. Well, truly successful, but not enough to get an ace, I guess.
Now Uno will bring a castle upstairs. Look at Supremacy's lineup, though. This is something that you see a little bit more common on this map. You have a Thermite, you have a Buck, a Zofia, and Ash. Oh my, that's 3 operators that are going to have no issues whatsoever taking care of soft destruction for your team. Tactics on that Blackbeard as well means that you can hold long angles, especially repelled out on the balconies, watching in through doorways or windows. If they can take that armory wall, that's a powerful spot for Blackbeard to be on repel and hold things down. Another story, we're now in round number 2, and Lion has not reared his head just yet.
Yeah, Lion, an operator that's seen a nerf recently and still gets used. We've actually seen him in the relegations quite a bit, but clearly not as much as he once was. No longer essential in these rounds. But yeah, Supremacy has placed a big emphasis on soft destruction and no emphasis on anti-electronic. They're relying on the soft destruction from their attackers to deal with those electronic devices from off angles from below, for example. And that's a reliable tactic on Border. I like the setup from Supremacy.
And it does appear that, at least for the moment, the push is going to be on offices, which makes an awful lot of sense. You've got Buck to toss those grenades over into the archives wall, through the office, and possibly dislodge a bandit who's playing on the other side. You've got Tactics who can hang on an abundance of windows and shut down any rotate while using the Zofia for disruption. And then you just simply thermite the wall into archives.
Meanwhile, we've got a big emphasis on CCTV for ENCE, and that could be useful if they have the right walls open facing into office, but it doesn't seem like it's been useful so far. You can see Uno on a melee hold just waiting for an attacker to push into his line of sight, but it hasn't happened. Supremacy playing very slow here. Anthrax going to vault in finally, but he hasn't pushed in yet. Not sure he's completely safe, and that's a good call. He's going to expose himself in just a moment to Uno. He's got to be careful, and there it is, the kill from Uno. That's Thermite Dispatch, the only hard destructor for Supremacy, and a very important kill.
That's huge for ENCE. They can have a sigh of relief knowing that it's very likely that Supremacy is going to have to fight for frags or potentially rotate. K6, though, will find Pinari, and the Mira is off the board, so they will at least even things out, but there isn't much time for them to do exactly what they need to do. A missed flash from Alive, and the smoke will greet the Ash of Supremacy sitting on that outside balcony. Just waiting with tactics positioned up on top of vents, watching, and once again cutting off that rotate if somebody wants to push in through Fountain or somebody wants to rotate from Armory. Bootsy will find a kill onto Alive, and there's under 30 seconds left. One of the Blackbeard shields will break, and very exposed, Tactics off, and Bootsy will find his second. Now K6 looking for his second. He'll light up and almost down Kanto Rigetti, but can't find it. Supremacy falling apart as K6 off the board. Uno's second kill, and Juice is the last one left. Kanto will find him. That is a round for ENCE in convincing fashion. That Thermite being lost early in that push, too detrimental for Supremacy to recover.
So 2 defense wins, 1 for each team, and both on the Armory, which means we're going to see an immediate rotation here. Supremacy going to go likely to Ventilation, a different bomb site entirely. They could mix things up, but I doubt they will in this match. So what happened there? It looked like Supremacy got a little mixed up. They weren't sure where they wanted to push in. They only started coming into office with a minute 20 about on the clock, and that initial push was immediately destroyed by Uno on that long angle from CCTV. So they made that CCTV hold work for them, and by them I mean, of course, ENCE, and Supremacy unable to maneuver around it. Could not get that B-wall open, and were forced over just the balcony as their push, and that's really difficult to make work for you.
Yeah, and I mean, you have tons of soft destruction still available, but that soft destruction will get you nowhere when those steel reinforcements are greeting you on the other side. That is why a lot of teams will typically run a Thermite and a Hibana in conjunction with one another. You find that that's actually more common when you're attacking the bottom floor or the first floor of Border, which is where Supremacy is opting to defend. And if you look at ENCE's lineup, they're just going to run with the sole Hibana. Reason why is, as we mention every time we play Border, you need to take control of a portion, if not all of that second floor, before you can begin your assault on the basement, or at least at the same time as your assault on the first floor. A Thermite is great for that verticality, or that horizontal destruction, but Hibana is needed for the verticality.
Right, you can get those drop downs opened much more efficiently with the Hibana, and that will likely be what ENCE is going to try to go for. Sometimes they're opened up by the defenders, like here, for example, Supremacy has opened up the one on server so that these roamers above can rotate. Regardless, just having a little bit of hard destruction, whether it's on a Hibana or a Thermite, is very important. They can also use the Hibana to open these mirror windows that you see Supremacy using so diligently over in Armory. But they have been bandited, so it will require the assistance of Boonsey on that Thatcher.
So the beginning on this push, they're going to assemble on the eastern side of the building.
Pretty typical.
Yep. And then you need to focus on that office and armory and archives. Rather, you can see the one Mira has been abandoned because it's been popped out. Don't know if it was Kanto who was able to get that or not. Likely the Twitch drone nonetheless. Good position for ENCE at the moment. Smokes will be used to try and push Supremacy even farther back. It'll be Kanto lighting up some of that soft destruction using the calibers of his weapon to tear apart at the wall. Meanwhile, Boonsey downstairs in lobby will once again rotate back up. First kill is going to go to that Mira. Alive wasn't able to get anything early on. He'll take out Uno, but a pair from ENCE will give them a numbers advantage as DJus and Alive are gone. That's your Jaeger and your Mira. Not high priority picks, but still will give you an advantage.
Yeah, no hard destructor for ENCE right now, but they should be fine as they push their way over towards that top floor. K6 in the main hallway above, looking to potentially get some flanks on, and he could be very successful if he makes the right moves. It doesn't look like anyone from ENCE is holding this flank. There's still plenty of time for ENCE to get a good assault onto the site, but the play make potential from Supremacy, specifically K6, is tremendous. While the other two anchors, Anthrax and Tactics, are trying to hold on as best they can. Panari gonna get Tactics though. That's the smoke eliminated. Anthrax expecting a push from the drop down, but it's all in the site. Inside of A, we could see ENCE at Boonsey trying to plant the diffuser. K6 will get Panari. That's a very important kill, and he's gonna finally drop down from above, but it's been heard by ENCE. And as Wilkie eliminates Anthrax, it's just K6 on the flank. He's been found out though, and it's likely that there's one player from ENCE holding this push from the rotation hole. And here it comes. Slow peek from K6. He's just gonna try and size up his options. He's running low on time as the diffuser hits halfway, so he's gotta commit to one of these pushes. The double melee door will be breached and his position given away. Wilkie in the hallway gets the final kill. K6 eliminated, and ENCE win the first attack of Border.
The one thing that was going for them is that usually you would look at losing a Hibana that early on and think that it was detrimental, but the one thing that this site has that most of the others don't is that most of those hatches are already opened for you by the defenders. So as long as you can break down the castle barricades, you have an opportunity to use the space that was provided for you from the defenders, and that's exactly what happened. They made K6 have to refight or retake the site, and that fight just was in vain. So ENCE wins their first attack, the first attacking round victory too. And let's touch on Wilkie for just a second here. K6, of course, right now the star on his team. Wilkie hasn't had the greatest season in terms of stats. He has shown up in terms of leadership, but not on the scoreboard. That is very much not the case today.
I would argue that Wilkie in general throughout his entire career has been one of those players that just doesn't stand out as a fragger. Really what he does is exactly what you said, leadership. He is the IGL, he is the captain of ENCE, and he does a lot of work in that regard. He's very dedicated as well to that job. And you really can't, underhype that sort of aspect of what he does for his team. But it's not visible on the surface, really. You know, you don't get to see it in these matches. It's not apparent. So him getting the kills as well as leading his team right now, major props for that. It's a difficult task to achieve.
So for their defense downstairs, you can see that it's going to be a very similar composition for ENCE. Unsurprising, because Vent and Workshop typically ends up, you would be running at least 4 of the same 5 operators. You're almost always going to have a Valkyrie, you're almost always going to have a Castle. A Mira is likely required. You're probably going to have a Smoke too.
I really appreciate this from Supremacy. They've managed to get into the building over by Tellers in 30 seconds, and they're starting to dismantle the defense that was established on that side. So really efficient push from Supremacy. ENCE, on the other hand, going to have to reevaluate what they can and cannot use in terms of maneuvering now that that castle barricade in the main hallway has been opened up.
So being able to take all of that map control away from ENCE so early will mean that even if they dither for a couple moments in the middle of the round, they still have plenty of time working in their favor, and Tactics is going to encroach. Look at how close he is, staring through the door of ventilation. That big Blackbeard shield will destroy Boonsy. Goodbye, and Supremacy gets the first kill, and that's the smoke. That is a high priority target for ENCE. That will be gone, and the Blackbeard losing next to nothing in that engagement.
There are still 2 ENCE players inside of Custom, and they've got a good angle, but it works against them as Tactics gets his second in the main hallway, his third, but he cannot get any more. Wilkie shuts him down before being eliminated himself as he tries to push up the main stairs. K6 is ready with arms wide open, and it's just Uno. He drops onto server, nice headshot onto Alive, pushing in through the front door, trying to get a second in bathroom, but cannot hit the shot. Gonna choose to rotate over to the main hallway and look for another fight. That's the buck of Dejuz in that main hallway, holding the corner, using his shotgun. He knows he has the advantage here, but he looks away at the wrong moment. Uno gets another one, and he only has to find 2 more. But all the while, diffuser planted, and it's going to be even more difficult now that he has a time limit. He's going to move over to B. A good choice there, but he doesn't have a lot of room to rotate. Has made it over to server stack. He's got to challenge the attacker inside a bathroom, but is looking at the wrong angles. There's also one above. That's going to be a supremely powerful position in the later part of this diffuser. Not very much time left for Uno, and from above, K6 gets the final kill. Another attacking win, this time in favor of Supremacy.
Can we give a huge amount of credit to the way that Supremacy was so bold as to just march in when the first 70 seconds you've got contact between Supremacy and ENCE, completely unchallenged from the defense, as Supremacy is pushing up onto the site. Tactics just obliterated 3 people without even being on rappel, just holding an angle indoors. Could be flanked, could have been pushed from another angle, doesn't matter. The Blackbeard finds its targets. Absolutely incredible. And that was 3 bodies that he was able to drop before Wilkie got pinched himself coming in to try and take down the Blackbeard. Absolutely masterful round from Supremacy.
30 seconds dismantling the utility, 70 seconds starting to get more frags, and I would say about 90, 100 seconds already pushing into the site, getting that diffuser plant. An incredibly efficient round. Yeah, major props to them. ENCE, on the other hand, did also have a convincing attack win when they went onto ventilation. It seems like the story of Border so far has been successful armory defense and successful ventilation attack. And that might just bounce back and forth until we get to overtime, unless some of the pattern, it will maybe get a little bit of a deviation. Anthrax is going to throw a very common camera out on the north side of Border. Try and gather some information on that end of the building. If you can deny any access to north, it is always nice, but it's somewhat difficult given you can drop from that roof onto the balcony as an attacker.
So back onto defense upstairs in Armory. Of course, I'm assuming we will likely see both of these 2 sites get fought over quite a bit. I don't know if there's going to be either team taking a gamble on potentially going down to Customs or going down to Bathroom the way that certain other teams in Europe have so far this season.
I doubt it.
With this much on the line, if you're not extremely well practiced, it's a huge mistake, I would say. Because with all these 5 relegations and now this 6th relegation matchup, they've all been so close, at least for the most part, they've been so close. You can't be able to, or you can't risk giving up one potential round. And Kanto, what are you doing? He just completely tosses his drone into a shock wire, doesn't even attempt to try and get the battery, and just loses it completely.
Yeah, a bit of a mistake there from Kanto. He's been somewhat, actually I would say very successful with his Twitch drone so far, but I think Wilkie really overshadowing the rest of his team with some amazing play, getting those kills, and yet another one for him, as well as I think he's going to disable this mirror window. All the work being done by the team captain for ENCE so far.
It's our first Lion as a C4 will sail over top of Boonsy, who is struggling to get the diffuser down. You just wasted your Lion. Oh no, alive, but gets taken out by Kanto. Dispatched. They'll now fire back as Anthrax takes out the captain of Wilkie. There wasn't much left of him to lose, mind you, from that MPX of Anthrax. And another dropped as it's a shootout at Armory Desk. K6 finds Kanto, and there's another down as Boonsy is currently down but not out. Now K6 positioned by half wall, watches towards the armory wall. They're frozen in place by the final EE1D of the Lion, and Supremacy in great shape to retake the lead. Boonsey will be finished off by Alive, and it's now 3v2.
That was just the down player finally bleeding out fully, and trying to get this diffuser. Uno, what a shot onto K6! But he's got to find more, and DeJu's moving his way over to bunker, going to get one on for himself. It's only Panari, and he's got to find two, and it's just not going to happen. Anthrax in that small office gets the final kill. Panari eliminated. Another successful defense of the armory. A nice attempt. I like that ENCE chose to mix things up. They went for an A wall attack instead of pushing office, and it almost worked. You could see those EE1Ds being so very useful, but because of some really unfortunate timing on that placement of the diffuser and seemingly some major mistakes being made by some of those planters, it just didn't work all the way.
ENCE is not the caliber of team that makes that mistake trying to do a backwards plant under a mirror while your gadgets are going off and losing the diffuser and needing to pick it back up. We all know how frustrating it can be to drop a diffuser, then have to run over it, run off it, run over it again, pick it up. Do I have it this time? All right. When you're a team like the way ENCE is, you don't make those mistakes. But we're speaking of possibly making mistakes, and K6 running a recruit. Now,
it might be intentional for all we know, but I doubt it.
An M87 with a frag grenade and a breaching charge probably strikes me as, you know, that's an oops.
That's a whoopsie.
That's a whoopsie.
I mean, you know, if it maybe if it were SMG-11 and then shotgun with a smoke and grenade recruit, be a little bit, it doesn't matter. Regardless, that's a whoops. And with the lead, Supremacy going to lose out on some utility. You know, in a lot of situations, it might not be that important whether you bring a recruit or an actual operator, but in this level of play, where every single gadget has a lot of importance, it does mean a lot. So K6 aware of his predicament and is going to choose to try and rush up that main staircase. He will make it to the top, but he goes for his vault and gets lit up and finished off by Uno. So a lot of damage done to Uno. He's on very little HP, about 15-10-ish. But beside the point, really, he lost his life for nothing. And that was a big misplay from K6.
I mean, a misplay from the recruit, but I think that's really all you can do at that point. Maybe use your grenades and then use the M870 bull rush into sight at that point. I mean,
but at the same time, you know, I mean, we can draw it all the way back to picking recruit.
Maybe pick an operator, you know. So I think that pretty much settles whether it was deliberate or not. So you've lost one member of your team in terms of utility, and the big issue for them was that they lost the Zofia. That was that one operator that used to be getting picked by Supremacy. So instead of running one of the best assault rifles in the game, instead of running an incredibly powerful gadget in that lifeline with tons of ability for not just destruction, but also those concussion mines, you have a recruit who rushes in with an M870. Uno has been reset, so essentially you did 50 hit points worth of damage, and then you died, and that was basically your whole goal.
Uno is going to get tactics, though. And so what could have been a potential kill there earlier will now be really biting Supremacy in the butt. Uno putting in work for his team in this round, really starting to take some of the mantle that Wilkie was fully holding up himself.
And I think there have been a lot of people who've been curious about the impact as the Jaeger will get his second, another for Uno, and a third! Uno, oh my! What a play, but he will be detected, frustrated. Wilkie jumps in, and they are back to being tied with one another, 3-3, as Wilkie finishes off that final kill of the round. And the Buck, no chance. The Finns are back even with the French, all tied up. And once again, Armory right now being strongly in favor of the defense. 4 rounds on Armory, 4 victories. As for Ventilation Workshop, it's been a victory for the attackers. So is ENCE going to continue that?
We'll see in just a moment. What a 4K from Uno. He really put in a lot of work, and he was about 10 to 15 damage away from dying to that M870. A little bit more RNG in the favor of the shotgun in that first engagement, and we would have seen a completely different round, but no, not gonna happen. Now Uno waking up, pulling weight with Wilkie on the side of Frags, and K6 also on the other team, Supremacy, still doing a lot of work, but not so much in that round. So if ENCE continues what we have seen every single round so far on ventilation, we will be going to match point in their favor. But if Supremacy can get a stalwart defense up and running and really resist the pressure that usually comes from the east, then we will see it go in their favor. We could also see maybe ENCE try to mix things up, do a little bit of a different dance. They do have smokes. They could push in through the front door, though I don't think so.
Those smokes that have been run on the Dukabi, though, I would imagine that's probably why they keep running.
That's exactly why. I mean, you don't have them on Ying anymore.
I mean, exactly, and that's why ENCE hasn't been running a Ying, but I mean, you also have smokes on Jackal.
Yeah.
And I would argue that Jackal has a much better toolkit available. I mean, you're not going to use Jackal's ability to track roamers on border, but the C7E is a much better gun, I would argue, than the M14 Garen that's being used by Dukabi.
You still have that SMG-12 for the close range engagements, and it does melt people, especially getting a lot of headshots randomly, which is something you can actually rely on to an extent. But yeah, I think, honestly, I think the reason they're bringing the Dukabi instead of the Jackal is just because they don't think they need help with roam clear. They think they want more in terms of pure disruption. Yeah, the gadget's not that useful in calling the phones, but what did you used to have, Parker? You used to have the Lion, and now that we're not bringing Lion as much, you need disruption to come from somewhere, right?
And my apologies as well. It's not the Garen technically on the M14 of Benari. I think it's the EBR, if I recall.
I believe it's the M14 EBR or something.
So it's a different game that I'm thinking of, but that is A-okay. Kanto has just walked into Archives looking for the head of Jaeger, sees it for just a second, and he'll be getting a nice reflex test. He'll spray away, and Dijous will be able to keep his head playing inside of that Armory small office. They've taken complete control of Archives, though, but this is where pushes tend to stall out for teams that are not as coordinated as they need to be. Similar strategy to what they did before. Nari will throw a smoke out, and that will mean that the rotation from Armory will be completely cut off, allowing ENCE to potentially drop or maneuver around the defenders upstairs.
So ENCE have managed to get that top floor. Like you said, they have gotten tellers, but only a minute. Still a bandit trying to trick these bathroom side walls. And the Thermite Thatcher EMPs are going to make K6's life a little bit more difficult. Uno, the only hard destructor for his team, so no big Thermite hole going to be open, but it doesn't matter as the rotation in bathroom is still an option for the attack. Interestingly, Supremacy has retaken control over offices, and Dijous is just an inch away from a swift double kill. No one's looking for this. Gets one, does not go for a second. Gets a second regardless over in Archives. What a maneuver from Dijous, a third! Control over office and now a significant man advantage. Supremacy are in a good position, but Tactics holding on to that bomb site. Wilkie will get the refrag. He's the final attacker and he's inside of A. He's got a bit of a change of positions between the attackers and defenders. A second for Wilkie. Does not go for the hammer kill, doesn't have time, and the 4K for Dijous to win the round. Supremacy pushing us on to match point thanks to some amazing Jaeger play. And how did he even get into offices? Did he just walk through the main hall upstairs?
I think they completely conceded. You saw him previously was playing in that Armory small desk. I think he just rotated all the way around and walked in through the hallway.
Exactly,
by CCTV, yeah. And then just took it away from them. So
they had control over Archives the whole time.
Right. And then they all dropped. You recall they had control of Archives upstairs, but they dropped. I think it's a big mistake that ENCE has not been running a Thermite on border. That is
agreed.
Right now, I think this is the only major thing for us to point out. And you can look right now, Uno and Wilkie are not the problem at the moment. They have absolutely showed up. What a match for them. Now, mind you, a couple of these kills from Wilkie over the last couple rounds have been non-impact or at least low-impact frags. So whereas Uno has been getting, I would say, higher priority kills on a couple rounds, but Wilkie also got them in the starting rounds too. As for Supremacy, it's a tale of a team working very, very well together, and I think that they've really brought the heat to ENCE, as especially they sit on match point.
Yeah, also just finding the opportunities and really seizing them, specifically, again, Dijous in that last round with the 4K. So, ENCE defending the bottom floor Now, they have not been successful here yet, but they're going to start things off very strong with a kill onto Dejus. So the player who previously was going, or having such a fantastic round just a little bit ago, no longer going to be able to influence, at least here in this round.
Attackers recovered the bomb diffuser.
So the buck gone as well. So Supremacy will now find for the second round in a row that this is them losing one member of their team early on. It was K6 essentially running in and playing Iron Man. And oh my, Tactics, goodbye Wilkie. He blows open the castle barricade through the double door and takes out the Valkyrie. And not just the Valkyrie, but also one of the hotter hands of ENCE today.
Yeah, Wilkie, unfortunately, not going for his team, not going to be able to help out in this round, and that means we're just inches away, really, from having this go in favor of Supremacy. They only need to get a couple more kills. That's 4 in total. And it's starting to stall out a little bit for them, but unlike ENCE, they do have a thermite to open up this back wall. And so when they hit the wall, they're not going to be completely stopped. They will have the option of moving into the site. Tactics, similar to how he played in the last time they attacked this ventilation room, has situated himself in the main hallway. Great position for Blackbeard.
And Alive sitting at the front door means that there's no successful rotate that can happen in order to pressure Tactics from behind. Now, one of the best aspects of Blackbeard is that when facing him in a single direction, he is incredibly strong. He does have, like a lot of the shield operators in the game, an exposure at his back. And if you're able to take him from behind, and Kanto just Goomba stomps Alive, but Tactics is there, and it's a 2v3. And they are 1 kill right now up on ENCE. And that flank watch of Alive will mean that now ENCE at least can push out and maybe pressure Tactics from a separate angle. As I was saying, if you're taking a Blackbeard on head-on, not exactly a wise idea. Look at how close Tactics is. Panari with some patience. Anthrax situated the thermite, watching the doorway into Workshop, and Tactics will crouch ever so slowly. He'll go to Drone to try and see where the Mira is, and now there's another crossfire established. You can see the thermite is going to rotate to try and take out the reinforced barricade. Panari will eliminate Tactics, and they'll open up the one reinforced wall. K6 from above. It is even for ENCE and Supremacy at the moment. But K6 taking out Uno means that Panari will need to clutch, but no, Supremacy will take map number 1, 5-3. The Finns will find themselves at a deficit, and the French are 1 map away from going to Pro League.
Putting ENCE in a bad spot. They are going to have to fight back and claw their way out of this hole. After losing their map, it doesn't look good. So, map number 2, Oregon. That's Supremacy's pick. And as you can see from the scoreboard, Supremacy didn't have any one player who stood out as being the person to carry their squad through into the win. It was a team effort, and that's really what there is to talk about here, team effort. The fact that there was a lot more coordination on the side of Supremacy in that match, clearly.
Right. Supremacy looked as a unit performing well, and there's still some issues there for ENCE. Supremacy were pushing together. They were watching crossfires. We saw that on display in a number of rounds where one would push in from an angle and they would have a teammate there to watch. A good example of that was after Tactics, and the way that they actually played around Tactics is very impressive. 2 pushes on the ventilation workshop downstairs, and both times they essentially built an entire composition and strategy around keeping Tactics alive and letting him just crush anything inside a site, be it Alive sitting at the main door to ensure that there'd be no rotate from workshop or ventilations, whether it was the pressure from above of K6 watching to make sure nobody was going to get the drop on him, or the late flank from the thermite, or the late rotate from thermite rather, to watch tellers or to watch customs. So a lot of commendations need to be paid to Supremacy on the way that they played that out.
Yeah, what that shows is a deep understanding of how operators work as well as where your teammates are going to be positioned, which has to do, again, with synergy, like we were talking about earlier. A lot of the Supremacy, I think, a success there, especially in that last round we just saw, was due thanks in part as well to the fact that they are so efficient in the early stages of the round. In fact, very different than the Supremacy of old, where it used to be a little bit slower. Here we have very, very fast attack rounds, really exceptionally quick. And And that allows them a lot of maneuverability and freedom in the last couple minutes of the round, where it's boiling down to 2v3s or anything on the like 3v3s, anything of the like. When it gets the first couple initial frags off and the strategy becomes less relevant, and it just comes down to just fragging out. That's where Supremacy is starting to shine, because they don't have to rush themselves, and that's often the mistake that a lot of teams are making. I mean, Pro League teams, Challenger League teams, just in general, we see a lot of situations where slow attacks in the early stages to get everything situated perfectly, and then not enough time in the later stages of the map, resulting in a botched attack round. But not so for Supremacy. We're going to move on to map number 2, Oregon, and this is Supremacy's pick.
So for me, one thing to watch out for is Oregon is a map where you need that coordination on particular sites. I mean, we have seen a lot of Oregon as of late where the laundry room, supply room downstairs is not a site that a lot of teams want to go to anymore, because it is so strongly attacker favored because of the way that the meta has worked. However, there's been some changes that we've seen so far, and can we be back in a space where the laundry room, supply room once again becomes the most preferable site to hold? There has been very limited Lion and Ying play so far today, and both those operators have been a huge reason for why the defenders don't feel comfortable on the basement side.
So we're going to have a heavy roam on the west side, and you can see that we're probably going to have a mirror window as well. Up here, just trying to get as much hold as they can, but Kanto putting himself at 50 HP very early on in the round, thanks to his impact grenades. Wilkie going to support him with some mute jammers too, so this is something we see a lot in Latin America, and clearly ENCE are trying to incorporate it as much as possible. The reason Wilkie was prone there is just in case some spray through the west window.
So still a bit of sloppiness from ENCE that cannot be happening when you are facing relegations. Supremacy has not shown any of that same attributes or trait that ENCE has shown. There's been a resiliency from the French team so far.
I mean, they've made some mistakes, but nothing major, just a little bit of minor ones. And I think that really the nail in the coffin so far for ENCE, and something they need to catch up on, is that whenever Supremacy makes a mistake, ENCE is not trying to seize that opportunity. They're not going in on it and choosing to get an extra couple kills. Kanto going to get Anthrax despite his low HP, so that's very important as well. The diffuser down over by Tower. What a kill from him. Must have been a very tight shot considering Anthrax's position right next to that cover.
Now, even though Border hasn't been ENCE's strongest map, we do recall that it was Black Dragons who were defeated on this map by ENCE. So they obviously have some practice. We know that they're good on it. It wouldn't surprise me if they're able to be comfortable playing on map number 2, even though it is Supremacy's pick. And I mean, we both agreed at the beginning that the map bans, the way they worked out, we thought that Supremacy was very comfortable with the way that the bans went. Certainly seems so with Border. But for ENCE on this map, I would imagine that they're going to be just as competitive as they were on Border, and that's going to mean that Supremacy will need to bring the heat to them and show why they actually picked this map.
After losing the glass, that's one set of smokes. Not the only one, though. We do have the smoke bolts from the Capital. A bit of an odd pick, but still useful on this site. Alive trying to flank. So if he pushes in late when all events is focused on that main lobby take, then this could be a very good play from him. But there are enough people alive on ENCE for that to be easily countered if the opportunity arises. In fact, ENCE has a flank established for this flank from Supremacy, and that's going to be Wilkie on the tower stairs waiting for the inevitable push.
He'll get pinged from his team, and now Kanto looks ready to join him with Uno stacked up at the back. So there's a lot of bodies that ENCE are currently using towards the back of the site, and will pay off as they at least get alive. But there go the smoke bolts from Capital. Asphyxiating bolts are dropped too. Capital waiting to see who is going to potentially go in through Meeting Hall. Dijou takes out Uno. It's the first kill for the French. Kanto waiting for the sledge, an enormous hitbox from K6, or at least visually, as Kanto gets another through tactics, and Bootsy jumps in. That is a quick round closed out by ENCE as they take the lead. Oh my, and that is their first lead since round number 3 of map number 1.
it looked like we had a bit of an over-rotation towards the construction side of things, but there wasn't really much for them to do after eliminating the Ash, and they could just move on back into position to defend from that main lobby. Also, Supremacy did not shut down the roamers very efficiently. They didn't have the control that they needed in order to make a main lobby push, and because of that, they had to deal with not only pressure from below in C4s and gas canisters, but also pressure from above and horizontally. So, a little bit of a misplay there from Supremacy, pushing all the wrong places at all the wrong times, and not a very efficient take, something we were praising them for having in the previous map.
So back downstairs to laundry room, once again, no Lion being brought out. I think this is something that we've speculated certain teams will use him more than others, and early scrim reports seem to suggest that Lion is not as much of a must pick as he used to be. He's more used situationally. Certain teams will use him on certain sites and in conjunction with certain pushes. Expect Lion to be used in a very heavy rush push, where you can get a lot of value out of that first E1D and then use the other after the cooldown is off in a potential post-plant scenario.
I mean, you're talking about still, despite the fact that you can be undetected, you have to stand still for so long on the defensive side. So Lion is still very useful, and it's a forced standstill as opposed to someone like Dokabi, for example, who you have to stand still at some point, but you're not required to immediately. So, still useful operator, just situational. Going to have a west side roam from Supremacy, similar to what we saw from ENCE, and the setup also very similar. I think we might not have a mirror window, though, on that big kids dorms, so a little bit of utility that K6 won't have. Dejus possibly downed and going to be reset in the closet downstairs. So a little bit of teamwork there for Supremacy. Must have been lit up while he was playing in Meeting Hall, which ENCE has now taken full control over.
And that's good. This is exactly the same as the way that Supremacy was able to take all that control away from ENCE on Border on that round downstairs in Ventilation Workshop. Now ENCE is repaying the favor. Of course, they paid dividends for Supremacy as they were successful that round. ENCE now also finishing up an attic above, making sure that there's nobody there. Of course, no rotate hole onto the kids' dorms side of things. So you know that you have complete control of attic, of course, barring an operator on roam who happens to have an impact nade to make a late flank route.
From the looks of things, and we're pretty early on in Oregon, ENCE is more comfortable on this map than they were on Border.
Absolutely.
They seem way better coordinated. And on that note, their first attempt at a push is going to be on the back end towards the north. You can see Wilkie trying to use his gas grenade, or smoke grenade. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say. Gas will not gather any information other than the leg of the smoke through the tiny little crack in that shelving unit. Gets a second onto Anthrax as he pushes through the gas canisters, but he's not going to be able to find a third just yet. Pistol out, gets eliminated by Dejus. Kanto has gotten one, but K6 as well from Supremacy, responding in kind, and it's a fight back from Supremacy. Another one for K6 over by the closet. And he's looking for more. Kanto, or Uno in the hallway gets Dejus, but K6 absolutely on fire. We'll put this into a 1 versus 1. He doesn't have very much HP though, just 25 and a little bit over. He's gonna go for a spray over towards Boonsey, trying to stick the diffuser. Pros don't fake, and now everything advantage in favor of Boonsey. He just has the unfortunate situation of having to hold on the bomb and cannot rotate. HP though, position, time, he's got it all. Try and hit the barbed wire, give him some more maneuverment. What a shot! K6
Defenders have located the diffuser.
Clutches it out with so little HP. Only one bullet required to dispatch that bandit, and it could not connect from Boonsey. Defenders will get the second round, and that's defense so far on Oregon. Supremacy responding back, but very narrowly a win.
That is a win that was pulled out of the hat from Supremacy. A round that ENCE should have had no problem sealing the deal on, but just not covering the one side of the basement the way that they needed to, and just really struggled to get a plant off. Wilkie rushed in after getting a couple kills. You had all that time, why not commit to a plant earlier? It took them so long to get that plant off. It confuses me that ENCE didn't take that time. K6 and Diju doing a wonderful job to close that gap between them. And I know it wasn't the 5v3 advantage that we always seem to have close, but that was a numbers advantage that ENCE should have been able to set up for trades and just had K6 kill 3 of them in very swift order.
So, ENCE going over towards the top floor, kid's bedroom, and this is your typical secondary bomb site, or sometimes primary bomb site, but they're going to be putting a big, a lot of utility downstairs in that kitchen area inside a cafeteria. And the reason they do that is so that they can deny any vertical pressure from below. Pretty standard setup as well on the site. Supremacy, their lineup is also very typical. That pistol coming out yet again. Look at that. Doesn't have a compensator anymore, but we see it once more. That's kind of interesting. The other Russian pistol is so good.
The PMM is like vastly superior. I know that some people in particular enjoy that second weapon because of how large its magazine size is, and I know that there's some people who will run with that just because it's like, well, it might not.
You got a lot of opportunities to hit the headshot.
Yeah, you can just unload with reckless abandon.
No, that's a good way to describe it. But Anthrax almost getting a shot there on Spoonsy, but it's not going to happen. Interesting rush in from Alive, kind of ill-conceived, and Uno going to get an easy kill there, basically handed to him, just holding on the mirror window inside of the kitchen. Tactics, meanwhile, trying to cut off rotation. This is something we've seen Tactics be so good at so far in this series, but Kanto getting K6, so it looks like we're going to have a very distinct advantage for ENCE, but they've had that before, and they're starting to lose it again as Tactics finally gets one for Supremacy. He loses a shield, though, in the process, and also gets downed outside on the west window. He's going to fall all the way down to the floor. Teju's watching this run out, but will lose the engagement with the zooming Wilkie, and so an easy double for ENCE. Uno finally allowing for that finished off player on the bleed out. Anthrax now the final attacker for Supremacy.
I believe the phrase that people use is easy for ENCE on that particular one.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you've got a Glaz who I would say in a lot of cases, Glaz is not the right operator to have in like a 1v4. I mean, it really depends on how you're going to play it, but Anthrax misses his smoke. It's not even going to be able to crowd the window, and that is about a frustration, as this should be a very simple round for ENCE rather, to be able to clutch. As long as they just stay static. Hold your positions, ensure that crossfires are set up, and there's no real sufficient way to push. But I don't exactly know what Anthrax is doing. Probably surveilling for a Valkyrie cam?
Yeah, it's likely he's trying to gather information. I mean, we saw Supremacy knows that there is a Valkyrie, and since all those runouts did happen, they're probably expecting one outside.
He's just going to hold a hard angle. Only 30 seconds left. And once again, his smoke is going to miss. Lay a couple shots into the mattress that connects the two rooms by the bomb sites. And it's Boonsy following through. No real chance whatsoever. The smoke just completely drops the Glaz, and ENCE retakes the lead.
Just a little bit of a pre-fire there through the mattress. Good game sense from the smoke to get that win. But it was all thanks to the runouts earlier in the round from ENCE and those early kills as well, where Supremacy was rushing into the building and without actually surveying it first. So that was Alive, I think, the first loss for Supremacy on Ash. Just, okay, gonna run through shower, gonna run through the shower lockers, and then just gonna push into the hallway. But all the while, there's someone watching this, so you need to use your drone to figure that out before you push in. He just didn't do that. Or someone drone for you. You know, regardless, doesn't matter. So ENCE up 2-1 now. And we see the first defense from Supremacy on the top four.
And that all started to fall apart with Alive's rush in as Ash, just into kitchen for no real particular reason. And the Supremacy, who looked strong and looked poised and looked coordinated on Porter, doesn't really appear to be so at the moment. I mean, on the scoreboard it says 2-1 in ENCE. In my book, I have it as a 3-0 to ENCE, just because that one round really probably shouldn't have been theirs to lose, but they lost it anyway. So find yourself in a scenario where Supremacy will likely need to tighten up their performance on Oregon. For me, I wonder if
their map pick.
It is their map pick,
So
but
weird.
ENCE has not really looked good on Border this season one bit, and I have to wonder, why would you continue to go back there? It's the same with Evil Geniuses continuously going to Oregon and losing every time, or at least most of the time. Eventually, they started banning it, and I think that's a change that maybe ENCE is going to need to work on if they survive this matchup between the two teams.
I absolutely agree with you. I think Border is really a map that they shouldn't find themselves on again. Yet here on Oregon, they are having seemingly a very good time, despite losing that round to the clutch from K6. So, information gathering well in hand here, friends. They've got the IQ to look for the cameras that are very likely outside, as well as just call out information in general on other electronics in the site. And they also have the hard destructor on Uno. That's going to be the nice camera there. Absolutely destroyed for Wilkie. I think that's the second he's found so far. Kanto also going to get Dejuz over on the balcony. And that can't quite see where that is. It looks like it might have been outside of attic.
Possibly a very
Master
tight
hallway.
angle through
Yeah.
the one window into attic.
Impressive shot.
A very impressive shot. But first lifeline will freeze them in place just for a second as they all have to silence their phones, and the head of the smoke seen very briefly. Tactics manages to get away though as Kanto cannot connect those shots.
Lifeline.
Very, did I say lifeline?
It's Life Alert.
It's
They got to answer the call from Life Alert. They're worried about their health.
it's the logic bomb. The logic bomb and the lifeline, a great grenade from Wilkie will dispatch the smoke. They had found his position out as he was playing at the top of White Stairs, exactly where a smoke ought to be playing. A flash will go in, and Valkyrie will be completely blind, but Uno doesn't do much with it. I guess suspecting that maybe the Valkyrie would rotate, but smart to not do so, knowing you have somebody up on the window. But what a flank from Alive. He'll take Wilkie down. Pinari will take out K6, and a second for Alive as the Pulse just runs Roughsod over ENCE in back tower and then through attic, and will now go on to his cardiac sensor as Supremacy still trails in man count, but only by one.
And it's Alive who is very much so trying to even this out a little bit. He's got great positions and a good operator for this situation. One for Anthrax in that bedroom, a second for Anthrax, and it's just Uno. C4 from below, from Alive, will miss. Uno eliminates Anthrax in the bedroom, but Alive is onto him, and he's tracing through the wall. He's looking for his opportunity. The defuse plant going down, and it looks like it's going to be a stick from Uno. Bad timing. Alive clutches it out. 3 for him in the round, and it's going to be Supremacy successfully defending that top floor. So 2-2 is the round count here, a back and forth with these teams, and I believe we've just seen defense so far.
That is correct. Defense all the way across the board, and
not only on this map, but on the other map, it was very heavily defensive-sided too.
yes, and that is back to the way it used to be way back when we saw the defense having an edge before we saw the Ying pushes, the Glass pushes, the Lion, the Blitz, Tigers, oh my. But that round right there was once again one that shaped up to be ENCE's to take. They had control, they started to push, they fell apart in a couple gunfights in Supremacy. This time, I would say that this was a round that Supremacy deserved to win. They took it away from ENCE. ENCE had the advantage, ENCE had the numbers, but they did not have anybody on flank watch, and Alive was able to take 2 very important targets down and then get back to site alive. And by doing so, you put him in a position where that 3 speed, which is already quieter than the 3 armor, can just crouch walk their way through dorms and stick the landing on Uno, who's trying to get the plan off, can't do it successfully. So
that's the second time now that we've had one player from ENCE going for the plant and losing in that situation on attack. So while this has been defense-sided entirely for both teams, it's been very much, I would say, more convincing wins for ENCE when they're holding versus Supremacy, who have got 2 rounds now just thanks to a clutch. Even though I would say, yes, that last round was more convincing for Supremacy. So, Alive, in typical Alive fashion, going to push his way in through showers and get control over the shower lockers and start looking for his next move, but he's taking it slower this time, given he lost his life so early on in the round in the last Supremacy attack, rather.
So Alive already inside of the building, but I mean, this is really, unless you have somebody positioned in kitchen, you're not going to have much control over the west side of first floor. So, yeah. I mean, it's not real map control that is being taken away from ENCE by Supremacy.
I mean, more just locked down.
Yeah, you've locked them down. And I mean, there's not really a flank opportunity for you outside of maybe somebody playing on second floor using white stairs to their advantage, but that's not really the case right now.
And that's always been the story with Oregon, right? The reason that West Side is always attacked early is because you can so easily isolate the defenders from it. There are three floors on the east side of Oregon, but on the west side it's just the two. So there isn't that extra layer of movement.
It's a standoff right now as Wilkie positioned in a situation where Anthrax could possibly take his head off. There's a lot of pressure from ENCE inside of Meeting Hall, waiting to see who is going to be the first point of contact. Of course, they do have the mute jammers from Wilkie that are aiding them, keeping that information away from Supremacy, and denying that intel is going to go a long way in slowing them down.
Could you imagine right now if Wilkie chose to push here? He's playing it slow. He doesn't need to make an aggressive play, and it might work out for him that he's not, but he's going to start getting pinched at some point if the attackers choose to try and push Meeting Hall.
It looked like they were set up to possibly go for that pinch, the Capitao and the Ash, but here comes Wilkie. There's a Claymore in his place. He sees the Hibana, but oh, Wilkie, no, you cannot do that. Diju's able to finish off the mute, and a good start from Supremacy. Now, they have taken one body out of Meeting Hall, but there's two more. Uno and Kanto are both playing inside of Meeting, waiting for a push from Supremacy. Dijus, who's lost a fair bit of his health, is just sitting inside a kitchen. Tactics will be the point man as he sees the bandit of Uno. K6 takes out Panari, but a double from Kanto! Anthrax and K6 so long, and Kanto is going to try to escape. He still has Uno up there with him, and it's only Boonsie downstairs trying to hold off on a push, but they are distracted, and there's only 20 seconds left. Both Kanto and Uno are going to do a great job of getting back to site, but amidst the smoke, it's Supremacy getting the plant down. Tactics goes for the kill, gets it, but in the midst of smoke, they'll try to juggle that diffuser. Kanto and a double from Boonsie. ENCE coming out of nowhere to clutch that round, and that is repayment for the round that Supremacy shouldn't have won, and that is one that ENCE should not have won. But Supremacy loses it, and ENCE once again retakes the lead.
I have to point out, Alive, the man tasked with planting that diffuser, he had cover of smoke, and he had a corner he could safely plant in, but he got spooked when he heard the gas canisters start to detonate. They weren't in his spot. He wasn't taking damage from them, but regardless, he came off of the plant and gave his team absolutely no chance in that situation, forcing another one of his teammates into the laundry corner to try and retrieve the diffuser and get the plant with very little time left. So that was a tremendous misplay, and one that potentially could have been the final nail in the coffin for Supremacy's round there. But regardless of that, yeah, ENCE up now 3-2, and they will be going on to attack now of Supremacy's basement. We're seeing more defensive wins.
Continuing on, and so how many do we have? We have 5 rounds on map number 2 so far.
2 total rounds in this series are attack wins, I think.
It's
10 seconds left.
It's wow.
Yeah.
That is a wow.
Nothing but defense apart from that.
So I think what's really going to come down to is a comfort level for these teams. But I mean, conventional wisdom suggests that if the defense is winning over and over again, it shows that you don't have as many well-formulated strategies to make the attack work.
I mean, yeah, that's absolutely fair. I mean, in that round, what did Supremacy do? Okay, so they tried to isolate West Side. They were successful in that endeavor. Then they pushed over to the main lobby, and they were holding the flank well into kitchen. But their actual push to the site was heavily distracted by the fact that there were so many ENCE players still inside of Meeting Hall. And those Meeting Hall players from ENCE were able to distract and disrupt and kill so many of the players pushing in main lobby that it opened up a huge advantage for them in man count, allowing them to snowball the round to their advantage. So what happened there for Supremacy was really just they didn't pay enough attention to Meeting Hall, which means it was a struggle later in the round.
So potentially the penultimate round of, oh no, Oregon, but Wilkie just breaks in and Alive is there? What is with Alive and just rushing through this part of the map? But this time around he's on defense. He'll be rewarded by taking out the glass. Was there any droning that was done from ENCE there in conjunction with Wilkie's push? Because you do not just face check that room.
I think he droned into cafeteria and then assumed he was good to vault in, but it was a really, I mean, he was wrong.
See the bullet pen as the shots go through the wall just over top of the head of Dijus, and the Jaeger will have to just hit the deck and hope that nobody's able to find him. One of the logic bombs from Pranari had already been used. That's a gadget that really doesn't have that much usage in the early round. You see that the sound cue from the phone is of course important to determine where your opponents are, and Kanto will somehow miraculously hit himself with his own lifeline. Boonsi takes out Alive though, and just a bit of softening up into the wall from Boonsi as he goes for a shot here. It's K6 who's going to be under fire from multiple angles. He almost gets one, but Boonsi is there, and it's a down onto Pranari. Uno almost loses his health as well, so ENCE losing an awful lot, but Dijus is outside and could potentially go for a run out if he needs to in garage at the moment.
This is a round-winning position here from Dijus. If he times it perfectly, he wins single-handedly if he could just get a couple kills on the flank. But he's got to get that perfect timing, that's for sure. Right behind him, a reset coming from ENCE. If only he knew. And he's going to actually potentially catch two players off guard if they push in the No, they're not. They're going to go over to the main lobby still. Opportunities abound for this Jaeger, and a lot of this round will come down to how he chooses to play this. This is a really good game sense from him, moving into this position. We saw this on Border, where he got the 4K, and we might see it win this round here.
And Dijus ready, poised. ENCE will drop. Smokes go off. Can the Jaeger come through? Oh no, he sees the Dokkaebi. It's two for Supremacy. Kanto takes out Tactics. Dijus is in. Boonsi will take out Anthrax, but they're about to run out of time. Plant is going down, and Dijus is the last one left. He'll need to win this, but he sees the planter. He'll get softened up by Kanto. He'll take him down. It's just Boonsi, but Boonsi will clutch. Oh my, Supremacy so close to sticking it. And it's the Twitch of ENCE who ends up prevailing on a very fast shot, and ENCE will now be on match point on Supremacy's map.
Oh man, if only Dijus had gone wide in the hallway, denied the flank hold from the player inside of box, and just did not, stop the defuse plant. Oh, really unfortunate choice there from Dijus, costing his team the round. Very close to a clutch, and regardless, well played to ENCE. We have to give it to them as well. They did get a lot of manpower early on, and advantage rather early on, and then that inevitable site push. It was so well in hand that they managed to get the plant in the second site that they pushed into. So good job to them. Kanto really showing up in this map, and Boonsi as well. So where I believe on the first map it was Uno and Wilkie, now it's Boonsi and Kanto. And it's much more convincing here as we've got a match point situation for ENCE, 4-2. Now they are pushing it to the boundary on Oregon. This is again Supremacy's map pick, so opposite day yet again in Pro League.
I feel like it's actually been a while since we've seen this. I feel like it's been ages actually. There was there was a stretch there where it seemed like the teams that were picking the maps were losing them, and it was really bad for a certain period of time. And now it seems to have reverted to the norm, which is where you go, well, I mean, did they just change the map bans on us as a joke?
I would say on average you're looking at about, usually probably maybe 60-70% winning on your map, and it is kind of an oddity when it goes the other way, but it happens, that's for sure, and it doesn't all have to do with map selection as well. But I don't know, it is kind of weird right now. We do have Bank as our third map, which is not an often played map in Europe, really, so something a little bit fresh that we'll see which team is more proficient on if ENCE manage to get one more round.
Bank would be a stellar show between the two teams as well. So it's one that I hope to see regardless of which team ends up prevailing on it. It doesn't really matter to me, but I just want to see Bank between these two, because I think no matter what happens with Supremacy's performance on Border, and even here with their performance on Oregon, whether they win this or whether they lose this map, I think there's a very credible argument that they are a team whose ascendance is all but assured to Pro League at some point. Of course, drawing in ENCE, who will lose one as Uno falls. What a rush from Alive. He blows the wall into Pantry and then takes out Uno. That's the Jaeger who was roaming, and the Ash just keeps on trucking. Though a grenade from Tactics will eliminate Boonsy, and what is up with Supremacy? 3 kills in under 20 seconds. K6 takes out Wilkie, and that's it for the round. Where did that come from? ENCE
All right, then.
tosses round number 7 away, and Supremacy is so quick to finish it off. Still match point for ENCE, but 1 round away from overtime.
That was an absolutely dominant round, and they were playing all, I mean, Supremacy was all over the place. They were coming from multiple different angles. Primarily, though, that east side over by Master allowed them a good thing to center their attack around. Alive's rush into Meeting Hall being completely well, I mean, he just breezed in. There was no one there to stop him. Usually you see 1 or 2 roamers over by Meeting or even down in the basement, but not the case for ENCE. Clearly they were putting more emphasis on the kitchen and the kitchen hallway. That ended up costing them, as Supremacy was expecting that, because that's what ENCE has done every time they've gone to that top floor. An easy read for Supremacy.
So ENCE once again remains top heavy, as you see that both Kanto and Boonsy are showing up big time for their team right now on Oregon. And once again, impressed by Supremacy's depth, the way that they have played this one out. They look really darn good, and I'll be honest, I haven't seen a lot of this team as much as certain other teams in Challenger League and other regions, and I'm a fan.
They're definitely putting up a good show so far, and they could easily bring this back. They only need a single round. Now, the last time they went to the basement, we all just witnessed, they were unsuccessful. And I say just because the actual last round was very brief. So yeah, it was not so long ago, maybe 3 minutes ago. They were not successful, and the reason being is they had such a man disadvantage early because they lost too many people on their roam without any kills of their own. And once ENCE actually went for that push, they were not really that hindered. They could easily breeze through the light layer of anchorage that was left for Supremacy. And the flank, I have to say, Dejus, amazing lurking so far on in this match. we're talking about being fans. Dejus in particular, for me, I got to give him massive props for his game sense and his positioning. Some minor mistakes on that last attempt, but still being able to get into garage in that situation. Not many players at this level would think to make that maneuver, but he did. He chose to, and it worked out. Well, it could have it could have worked out.
It could have.
It was close. Regardless, I really like his positioning. And Supremacy still holding this west side. It's going to be a back-end attack, though, from ENCE. So they are going to, instead of confronting the roamers, simply ignore them and move their way over to the north. And as Boonsy gets that mirror window, this is going to be a lot easier for them as well. Kanto getting Alive over by Meeting Hall. It's just getting better and better for ENCE.
And already a good start, and once again, Alive. Is that a kill through his peak hole? What a shot, but no. Dejus once again situated in garage.
Could potentially result in a nasty flank yet again, but it looks like ENCE might be aware of it this time. K6 in the main lobby looking for a flank if he can get it. Meeting Hall, though, the only way to get that to happen. As smokes and gas canisters come into the site to try and give some cover, there's going to be an engagement as well. Wilkie shooting through his own smokes. Dejus, though, in Meeting Hall gets Panari, so even trade so far. Supremacy still at the disadvantage, but this engagement could still go either way. C4 from Anthrax will get Kanto. 30 seconds, and still has a lot of time, and Uno going to get Anthrax in response. K6, it's just back and forth here, but it's evened out, and Supremacy have a slight advantage despite that diffuser plan. It's only Boonsy against K6 and Dejus. This is a story we've seen before. The Twitch against the Bandit, but he downs K6 with a nice shot by the box. Dejus, though, the headshot, and Supremacy will clutch it out. Overtime is the result, and we go to 4-4.
What a clutch from Psy unit. The Psy unit, rather, as Supremacy is able to push us into extra innings. And once again, ENCE's inability to make a push onto that site work the way they needed to has been a story that we have seen now on at least 2 rounds that I can recall, potentially 3. And Supremacy just reads it and understands it. You had a great entry clear from ENCE there. They were able to take 2 down. They started their push. They traded off, still held an advantage. But for some reason, ENCE's ability to clutch rounds, in comparison with Supremacy's ability to save rounds, just are completely outmatched. And especially on Oregon,
Attackers need to locate
there are a
and
number of
defuse
rounds
bombs.
where both of these teams shouldn't have lost. You could argue that either team should have won it by now, but the big story for me is we're in overtime. ENCE is at least going to get to defend twice. There's only been 1 attacking round victory so far.
On this map, yeah. And 2 on the previous map, so 3.
In total. I feel good if I'm ENCE heading into this matchup or into this round, but I mean, anything could possibly happen. If Supremacy wins this on
Attackers
attack,
located a bomb.
I think it's over.
Yeah, I think at that point your morale is going to be so very crushed that it's all going to slip away one little kill at a time moving into the next couple rounds. So we'll see if, I mean, ENCE last time they went here did lose. That was the one attack win that has happened so far. That was Supremacy attacking onto the top floor, and it was because they were able to get so many kills early. I mean, it cascaded into full clear. Only 1 loss for Supremacy in that round in terms of manpower. And it doesn't look like ENCE is going to be making the same mistakes they made there, though. They have been, or they are playing right now a lot safer with their defenders. However, it looks like an unreinforced closet wall, which might be an easy open for Supremacy. We talked earlier about how they're fast into the building. Well, now they know that. They have 2 soft destructors, and they're going to be able to get that wall open.
You can use that sledge or the Ash breaching charge quite easily. I mean, you use that sledge, dispatch it, use Ash from below, and I mean, they understand exactly how they can make this push work. And even though Alive has the intel, he tries to go for a pre-fire on a Kanto, but Kanto's having a good day. It only gets better as he beheads the Ash of Alive, and it feels like Alive does one of 2 things. Either he sprints into his death or he sprints in and gets 1 to 2 kills and then calls it a match.
That's his strategy, and it's been about a 50-50 so far, I would say, for him. So he's at least, I think, going even, and that you can't really. I mean, if that's your result, then as long as it's working for your squad, keep going. You know, we'll see if it gets better or worse moving forward. But yeah, not going to happen in this round. So just a little bit of advantage early on for ENCE. But the mirror window eliminated. Kanto will bite the dust from below. He is not able to get any more kills, and Tactics on those white stairs now has good control. Panari, though, will eventually dispatch him from the white stairs, just retaking his teammate's position.
So now you've got Panari playing on white stairs with that opened up mirror hatch exposed below. It was Tactics who had rushed in as the Capitale before, but because he's down and because they are at a numbers disadvantage, I would wager that Supremacy is not going to use anybody to pressure white stairs outside of the glass. But as I say that, K6 is going to change. Anthrax, as the glass is dispatched at big window, as Uno in small tower finishes him off, leaving just the Sledge and Hibana of Supremacy in a 2v4. But K6's rotate will work as Wilkie is gone, and now K6 slowly inching his way towards white stairs. Panari finds Dijus, so that means it's just the Sledge, but Boonsy downstairs using the SMG-11 against the other SMG-11 wielding Sledge will be enough for ENCE to once again put us on match point. That'll be their 3rd time doing so as the defense continues to hold on. Will Supremacy be able to answer back, or will we see just our 4th attacking round victory between these 2 maps and our 2nd here on Border?
Gotta
or on
venture.
Oregon, my apologies.
I'm going to venture a guess that this is going to go 5-5, and we're going to have a 6-5 match result in this one. I don't think Supremacy is going to let it slip away on defense here. I mean, yeah, although, to be fair, let's look at the scoreline here. We've got 4 rounds for Supremacy, and 1 of them an attack, but all 3 of their defenses have been clutches. All 3. So, who knows? It could be finally the round where ENCE gets that defuse plant and holds it in the post and gets that win.
The thing for me is ENCE has not been... Oh, well, no, ENCE won on Laundry. So ENCE has won when they went downstairs. So there's actually been 2 attacking round victories. My apologies. ENCE won when they attacked Laundry downstairs from that clutch with ENCE, if you recall. So numbers were a bit off. So ENCE has won on this site previously. However, they pitted themselves in a 1v1 engagement after yet again pushing into supply room rather than laundry room. They went downstairs, they did a back take, they had that pressure in, they left 2 bodies in Supremacy alive in the laundry room. How many times are they going to keep doing that? Are they going to use another body to potentially push through that main lobby and not allow Supremacy to keep somebody like Dijus and K6, who seem to be the 2 always left alive in that scenario, from being able to battle back and possibly stop you in the post-plant scenario? So that's going to be something to watch out for ENCE.
Now, Wilkie did spot out a player in tower and is now looking for that player. I believe it was Dijus, who is now inside of meeting hall. Used the drone hole to try and scout that out as much as possible. But Dijus has fallen way, way back. Well, I mean, in a respect, he's moved over actually to the main lobby. So he's kind of exposing himself here very dangerously, but it could actually work in to his benefit. It really depends on what ENCE chooses to check. And that's kind of the story, I guess, for Dijus as a player so far. It seems like he's trying to find the opportunities where they arise. On the west side, though, a pinch from ENCE will result in a kill on 2 alive. There is one more roamer on this west side. That's K6, but he is getting absolutely encircled. And Panari dispatching him. It will be a 5-on-3 with still plenty of time and almost a surefire win for ENCE. Narrowly missing shots there onto Tactics. Boonsy opening up the top of these stairs, looking for the angle. That was almost yet another kill for ENCE. Dijus actually getting kind of predictable at this point. It's likely that ENCE will expect this and drone it out at some point. But who knows? It could be, again, another opportunity for Flame.
Just the reticle of Anthrax bobbling over top of the head of Kanto as they exchange shots through the open hatch. Now Kanto will sit off and drone as the rest of the team will encircle. They've got the hatch open. They could possibly open up the wooden wall and give them a longer line of sight into that supply closet. But oh man, Dijus ever so quiet. But he'll miss his shot on the IQ. He gets one, but Bootsy is there to take him out. It's just Anthrax and Tactics left. He came so close to once again doing what we thought he could inside of Garage. That's just gonna leave 2 on site. Anthrax has under half health, and a concussion mine will blast Tactics inside a closet. They'll also have to silence their phones, and he is just disoriented as all can be, leaving Anthrax to try and contend against the Rush. A team kill from Bootsy onto Kanto. Tactic take out Bootsy. Anthrax with a C4 onto Panari, and now it's all Uno.
What?
ENCE, how do you toss that one away?
What?
I am beyond puzzled as how that happened.
And we all fall down.
For some reason, ENCE just cannot. The moment they get to the basement, their strategy completely falls apart, and Supremacy wins that one in astonishing fashion. That's at least 2 or 3 rounds that ENCE were in the driver's seat, yet unable to complete what they had started.
4 rounds. That's 4 rounds now, where Supremacy, I believe, have won defense. And every time, ENCE should have been able to pull out the victory. Four defensive clutches for Supremacy. 4. So, a bit of an oddity for this map, and it's... ENCE is now 1 round away from losing their spot in Pro League. Supremacy 1 round away from gaining that same spot. And if ENCE does win it, then we're going to map 3. So there's still chance for Supremacy no matter what.
I hate it because it sounds like we're not giving Supremacy enough credit for how this map is going.
They're playing great.
They are playing great, but this map has not been Supremacy winning. This map has been ENCE beating themselves. Border was Supremacy emphatically defeating ENCE. No questions asked. Supremacy looked far and away the better team. As they have looked on certain rounds here, on border, but this has just been ENCE tossing rounds away when they have been in control. You do a successful droning, you do successful droning, you get a successful roam clear, you take out so much of the map control from the defense, you pinch the final defenders on site, you have all the gadgets and tools at your disposal, and yet you still cannot make it work because of the way that you misplay your advantage, not necessarily because of the way that the other team is responding, and you've made it very easy for Supremacy, who are capable of punishing you for your mistakes. You're gifting them those mistakes to punish you with.
Let's bring it back just a little while. ENCE was up 4-2 on this map, and now we're inches away from a loss against ENCE. So yeah, it's been a struggle for them. And I agree with you. I think it's just rounds that they have been kind of tossing away that they really shouldn't be. But there's still this round, these last 1 minute and 45 seconds, that will be the deciding factor, regardless of which way it swings. And we'll see if we go to another map or if this is just going to be over.
So with right now, every single operator still alive. ENCE heavily invested in Meeting Hall. You've got Kanto playing in back tower. You've got Wilkie as well as Uno inside of main hall, and the Capitao is going to creep up.
The last time we saw this situation, Kanto got a lot of kills inside of that Meeting Hall, and he was able to open things up for his team, resulting in the defensive success for ENCE. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case yet.
And they're going to have to encircle the attackers, as right now, all of Supremacy is starting their push. Panari will get the first kill on the Dijus, and still ENCE has not been cleared out of Meeting Hall. So Supremacy answers back with Uno down. That was one of the bodies playing inside of Meeting Hall, and the Glaz will get that shot and make it easy. But the Hibana is off the board in comparison to your Bandit. Diffuser is down deep inside. A pair of kills from ENCE will be answered by one from K6, leaving ENCE in a 3v2. But both Wilkie and Boonsy are currently just a shred of health away from death. A grenade from K6 will go down into the closet. He has 30 seconds along with Alive to make Supremacy the newest addition to Pro League, and they will have to grab that diffuser. That is going to be their biggest obstacle. It is deep in the site, in between the bomb sites, just in the front of the hallway, and now a smoke will go out. It will choke out Supremacy. They'll have to funnel in through the main stairs. A flash from Alive will ring through the doorway. The Capitao will need to, or the Sledge will need to push in. No Capitao available for them. Panari finishes off Alive, and ENCE is just one kill from staying alive for the time being and pushing us to bank. As the Sledge goes in, Bootsy misses his shot, but ENCE will finally pull it out. After having so many opportunities to do so, they'll finally win the round that they need, and Supremacy will have a third map to possibly come back and eliminate the Finns, but for now, the Finns will live on.
Oh boy, definitely a close one, but still they managed to lock it out. Good job to ENCE. The defense there, again, last time we saw it just like that, it was a win for ENCE, and they did hold on thanks to their pressure in Meeting Hall, really not giving a lot of opportunities to Supremacy. We saw something similar happen in this round whereby that pressure in the Meeting Hall, those roamers who were still left alive and were able to put some shots into the players in the main lobby, opened things up for the defense, allowing or making Supremacy's life a lot harder when they went for that actual site push.
There were a number of rounds where Supremacy were able to get in, get the opening kill, and build upon that lead to win the round, and I think that's something that they were doing so successfully on Border. The team that we saw of Supremacy on Border looked far more in sync. They looked like their pushes were working together. They looked like they had the comms and the clarity to push the site the way they needed to do so. I said that way that they built a couple of those strategies around the Blackbeard of tactics, it didn't really seem to be there on Oregon. A number of those rounds were not just won from ENCE mistakes, but Dijus and K6 being put in a number of clutch scenarios, and they won them. Now you can say that big ups to Supremacy for the fact that they were able to win that, but that's not a sustainable strategy for a team to win games on. You cannot rely on one or two players outnumbered winning a clutch, because eventually that luck is just going to run out.
Yeah, about 90% of the round wins for Supremacy were clutches, and on that last round, there was a very distinct lack of coordination, as well as some really, really poorly misused utility. The smoke placements were way off, and that was the same thing we saw last time Supremacy attacked the basement. Just some weird placements of smoke, as well as some oddly timed pushes for the defuse plant that don't seem to be very well in sync. And, you know, we're talking about an organ basement attack, probably one of the most common attacks in Pro League, something that Supremacy is definitely going to have to go back to the drawing board on and start reevaluating their timing and positioning on, as well as they did not contain that meeting hall roam at all from ENCE. They really struggled with fighting those meeting hall roamers. You know, they did manage to fight back and get refrags at times, but that's not enough when you're attacking the main lobby and you don't have a diffuse plant already. So yeah, a struggle for Supremacy, something they're going to need to look at in the future.
Supremacy struggles seem to come on the opening to mid-round, and ENCE's struggles seem to come at the end of the round.
I would say in that last round it was Supremacy struggling the end of the round.
Well, yes, but I mean, I think the trend line for them was that
Fair.
Supremacy's inability to deal with meeting hall and inability to pinch out some of those roamers early on really hurt them at the final minutes, whereas ENCE were successful in the first half of the round but couldn't close it out. Now, overall, if we're being completely critical, that was a very sloppy map from both teams.
Both teams, absolutely.
Both teams committed way too many mistakes in order to say that you can confidently say, yeah, we were the better team on that map.
I mean, what you were saying about meeting hall too. I mean, is some teams, what they'll do with meeting hall is they won't clear it out when they're attacking. They'll just contain it. They'll be like, okay, we see you have players in meeting hall, but that doesn't matter to us because you can't influence the actual main lobby drop. You can't influence laundry from meeting hall directly. There is no vertical pressure there, so the defenders can't utilize it. So the attackers will just isolate it, put people on flank holds, and actually make their normal push. But Supremacy struggling to do even that instead of just clearing it out. Regardless, that's all the previous map. Went all the way to 6-5, and now on map number 3, Bank. We will see who your final victor is. Who is going to take that spot in Pro League? Will be ENCE, the longtime Pro League veterans with so much experience and so much to lose, or Supremacy, the somewhat unknown newer roster that is fighting their way up to get into that spot.
So, one point to make mention of, the only team that has retained their spot thus far in Pro League is Yeah Gaming.
The only one.
The only team.
It's
and
crazy.
they struggled. They went to a third map. Now, mind you, the third map was quite decidedly in Yeah Gaming's favor, sure. But they still needed all 3 maps to make it happen. The other 4 teams that were in relegation so far, Oplin, Counterlogic Gaming, Motivate, and Red Canids, all lost. I think what this has really shown more than anything is that even if the Pro League team is winning, they're still struggling to do it. Because even if ENCE ends up closing this out, they're still going to have needed all 3 maps to do it. They still put up a struggle against a team that has really shown up and played as well as we expected them to in Supremacy. So the real story for me is there were no blowouts from Pro League teams. That's how close Challenger League is right now to those 7th and 8th place teams in Pro League. And I think that's something that every single team in Pro League needs to be put on notice, is that your spot is not safe.
Yeah, and you really are going to have to fight for it, as clearly displayed here. I believe in terms of relegation season, or relegations, we have seen more eliminations from Pro League in this season so far than ever before. I don't recall nearly as many Pro League teams hitting that struggle like we're seeing here. Yokai Drone in the server is going to disorient quite a lot of the attackers. K6 getting Fenari at the top of the server stairs. You can see Boonsey calling out a lot of information for his team. C4 is going to light him up alive from the main site. Will get Boonsey from behind thanks to an open wall. Kanto gets a team kill, and Uno, the first kill for ENCE. But they've fallen apart all the while. That's the second TK for ENCE. And it might just cost them this first round. And knowing ENCE, it might cost them the match on mentality alone. Anthrax at the top of the server stairs, though, dispatched by Uno thanks to the use of the smoke.
I think it's a little odd that there was nobody really bothering to check White Stairs the way that they did. You send Boonsey into his death as the Montaigne to try and check the stairs with nobody there to assist him whatsoever, and find themselves in a position where they have lost too many bodies. And once again, yet another team kill. I think ENCE probably leads the way in team kills over the last 3 seasons. I don't understand what it is with this Finnish squad, but they just cannot stop themselves But with both Dokkaebi and Montaigne falling, that means 4 smoke grenades are gone. That is huge for the defenders. And what is Tactics doing? He doesn't go for a kill onto Uno, waiting patiently. Kanto's last one left, he'll get Tactics, and that was the Echo who stopped and froze in place, unable to take the glass out just yet. Kanto will breathe in some of that gas from Dijous, waiting for K6, and once again it will be K6 and Dijous left alive, and it's K6 who will clutch it out. Easy round for Supremacy. ENCE not off to a great start. Psy unit looking good.
And it all fell apart with the server clear. A basic server push and clear not able to work for ENCE. And there was a lot of emphasis put on that server from Supremacy. Fair, but still, that struggle was unquestionable. And the server stairs as well, the setup from Supremacy, you gotta give them props for this at least, or especially in fact. The way that they used that shield at the top of the server stairs actually allowed for a much more dynamic play from the Legion. Now you would say maybe having impacts and the ability to open the server drop down would be better in that spot, but no, the shield in fact stopped ENCE from getting the refrag on the Legion playing above, which ultimately resulted in Supremacy getting the round win. Which is just odd to say shield equals win in terms of deployable shields. It's a thing that in the past, up until this season, really wasn't used at all. It was neglected, in fact, very heavily. And you know, it's possible that the reason we're seeing more shields now is after the barbed wire nerf, which happened a long time ago, people are starting to realize how useful they can be. And since barbed wire isn't essential anymore, I know it happened a long time ago, maybe they're just starting to work it into their strategies.
This happens in a lot of games, though.
It does.
A lot of games.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a MOBA, a first-person shooter, a fighting game. It doesn't matter. Somebody will all of a sudden use a character, an operator, a hero, a gadget, a tool, a gun, a weapon, etc. that people think to be inferior and use it so well that people go,
whoa,
whoa,
I can use this.
This is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Take a look at Bosco. He starts using the DMR in the 6 Invitational ladder matches and in the qualifiers, starts destroying people. No real contest from anybody that's engaging against him. And next thing you know, every single Blackbeard is running this DMR, and we don't see him using his Scar at all, really, in any matchup. And that is just simply one person saying, hey, this is pretty good, I'm gonna use this. And next thing you know, boom, everybody else is. I think teams kind of realized, and this is Latin America who needs this credit, for bringing back these deployable shields into the meta.
It's definitely, well, bringing back.
They were never really in the meta, you know.
Bringing into
The meta.
I know what you mean.
I know what you mean.
But yeah, speaking of deployable shields, there's one to try and assist in that mirror window usage in the B-bomb site. So that means if somebody on the attacking team gets control over Garage, well, they can't see any of the defenders playing on the mirror window in B. So good placement there of that shield. All the while, Supremacy taking control of these top 2 floors, forcing the ENCE players down and making sure there are no roamers before making that actual push. They have a good amount of control here, but they don't have a surefire, they aren't sure really where they're trying to attack from. I like this angle from Panari, could get him a kill in just a moment, sees the head and clicks on it. K6 eliminated on the drop, thanks to some great positioning from Panari.
You're going to be seeing a lot of that. Just opening up around the very small hole in the mirror, lying prone, looking up. We don't see it used that much in Pro League for a number of reasons, mostly because there's not a lot of sites where you can do that successfully into a hatch, but watch out. Watch out, Bank. You're going to see it.
Yeah. Now, all that said, we do have a lot of drop-downs open for Supremacy, and they have a good amount of options despite losing a man early on. But they're running low on time. Only 30 seconds, and they're just starting their actual push into the site.
And you can see those Gershmont mines from Ella of Uno will be used to stop the plan. Dijous will find his first victim, that is Kanto. The Legion is gone. Tactics taking some damage from the spike in his foot is alive, finds a second target, this time on a Panari. Bootsy goes down, Wilkie responds, but he'll be taken out. It's all Uno left. It's currently Anthrax holding onto that diffuser, and there is zero control for ENCE right now. Easy for that diffuser to go off, and ENCE is about to find themselves in a 2-0 hole. Uno is going to need to retake. He does have a couple open hatches at his disposal as he works his way into open area. He will be spotted on the drone. Oh, that is going to hurt. He'll drop. go for a pre-fire, but he has a lot of debris in his way, and that rifle of Ella, or that machine gun, rather, of Ella, that SMG, not quite what it used to be. Dijus will close things out, and Supremacy up 2-0.
Good teamwork there from Supremacy. You could see clearly that the drone, one of the attackers in post-mortem, was able to call out information and ensure that win there. But we have to take a step back to the actual assault. Only 30 seconds left when Supremacy made their push. But thanks to an abundance of lanes to utilize and a good amount of manpower, they were able to push in through each of those lanes and get a sandwich onto ENCE's hold. A lot of that, to me, comes as well down to the vault drop from ENCE being ignored. And that is truly confusing. Because they ignored the vault drop down, that forfeited control over vault itself and gold cash room, which meant that basically the core, the backbone of that site was given to the attackers on a silver platter. And I think that's probably why ENCE struggled so hard to actually hold that site. Now, this is really important. I know it's just a 2-0, and technically speaking, there is no in-game momentum factor in Siege. But in terms of mentality, again, we brought it up a number of times. You know, it's a huge thing in this match in particular. You know, usually you can get psyched out if you lose your first 2 rounds, but it's even more so the case here. In this game.
I think the mental game oftentimes is hard to determine, but
it really is.
But I do think that ENCE is one of those teams that I believe you called them an emotional team.
That is how I would describe them.
And I think that's very appropriate.
If they're winning, they're really winning.
And I mean, you saw that calmness under pressure, and expectations can be a big reason as to why we mentioned the curse previously. If you're not familiar with ENCE, they were a team who would routinely make lands, so much so that they actually made it every single season except for this one. But they would always have middling results and usually get knocked out in the first round. It was referred to, I guess, funny enough, as the curse,
yes,
which was broken last season when they won the championship in Sao Paulo. But they're a team that seems to find themselves weighed down by pressure, expectations, and, as you put, emotions.
You know, I would say that they have a lot of skill. They just aren't able to fully utilize it the way that they want to because they get a little bit ahead of themselves. But regardless, we should be talking about Supremacy. They're up 2-0. They are doing fantastic here on Bank. They clearly know what they're up to on this map. Now, first phone call from ENCE, and nothing going to come of it. They do have to deal with some roamers, but none seemingly on the top floor. Supremacy just playing for retakes, it looks like. Alive has a really good position here that's not actually being watched from ENCE, and could potentially get a good flank later in the round.
It's only only half of the round left to go, as right now you can see Supremacy is entombed in those castle barricades inside a site. But here's going to be a major thorn in their side, and that's going to be Wilkie. Of course, not in their side. He's going to be playing from above with the skeleton key. Right now inside a CEO office, he'll tear away at the floor, and that will cause the defenders to feel discomfort on the site. They cannot sit idle the way they did before, or else it's going to be up to ENCE to be able to pick them off.
Now, this is why you usually see a lot of players upstairs when defending tellers, but not the case here. And because of that, Uno going to get Dijus. And this is where you're going to likely see the man count start to spiral out of control for Supremacy and in the favor of ENCE.
So they've got good control. The Mira is down. They can continue to push away at the top of that site. A grenade will go off and just miss Anthrax. He's going to have only a shred of health. And Benari comes in. That's a double kill from Benari. He uses that SMG-12 so well. And he'll go for another on the Tactics, but he can't connect. That's a double answered back from the smokes of Supremacy. And it's Tactics and Alive. Alive, who was creeping just outside of sight, will need to come back in. But now Tactics takes out a third. This is going to be another clutch for Supremacy. They'll need to grab that diffuser. Uno has it. Tactics coming in. He'll get a shotgun. Tactics, there's one left.
Oh!
And it's the ace for Tactics as Supremacy goes up 3-0. What a finish!
Very narrowly missing that last kill, but not so. Tactics downing that diffuser, forcing ENCE to renegotiate their push and come into an odd angle with so little time, and he will clutch it out all by himself. Tactics making a name for himself in this match.
Oh my. Just the clutch potential of Supremacy is off the charts at the moment. I don't know what it is. I don't know what they ate before they played this match, but there are so few times when faced with a clutch or kick scenario that Supremacy is not being able to pull through, and it's been almost every member of the team who's been pulling their weight by clutching out. First K6, then Deju's, now Tactics, all of whom have single-handedly saved rounds for their team, and now an almost insurmountable 3-0 lead for Supremacy as they can taste Pro League. They are so close to knocking out the Finns and making it so that a fourth French team will once again play in Pro League for Europe.
They're going to have to win an attack onto ENCE's defense of the Teller's Archives. Now, ENCE has not been successful on a defense yet, which means they can choose to go to any site they want. They're just trying to mix things up here with this site selection. Now, that could work for them. It could work against them. We do have a Jackal on Supremacy's side, which means clearing out that top floor, which it is going to be very easy for Supremacy if they play this round right. It's likely that we'll see ENCE put emphasis upstairs, but Supremacy didn't in the previous round, so maybe ENCE will follow by example.
So ENCE will be gifted defense yet again.
Aside, I mean, on defense of Bank, it hasn't been so successful for them so far.
No, and they're going to choose another site, too.
Yeah.
This is very interesting. I mean, I get why. It looks like Uno's cam, or this cam that is being used by Uno right now, that's one of Wilkie's cams, will go unspotted. He'll very wisely get off it just in case the Capitao saw it. You can hear the cam break, probably Tactics seeing the cam finally, after all, as that large blue fluorescent ring was staring intently at him in the desk on Bank.
We also have 3 defenders upstairs. They're going to be using that information well in all likelihood. But you can see it's very much a vertical hold for ENCE. But one of the horizontal players, Boonsey, will get the first kill of the round on Tactics. That's the Capitao, unable to use any of his bolts in this round. Now, Alive is trying to pressure the roamers upstairs. K6 is over on the square skylight stairs himself. They're just trying to pressure into B as much as possible. Moving into server is the Valkyrie of Wilkie, who lights up Anthrax but cannot get the kill. Also completely caught out, and the information will be given to the rest of his team. Boonsey will get his second of the round, continuing to anchor well on that site. ENCE is prioritizing this top floor, but the actual anchors in the site are doing very well at holding their own.
They're just chewing up time as that numbers advantage, once again, a 5v3 in favor of ENCE. They can just hang on, but I mean, I feel like no lead is safe for ENCE at this point, especially with the way that we've seen things play out. A couple shots will go through the wall towards Uno. They'll tag him ever so gently, and he'll just take a light bump, but ENCE firmly in the driver's seat, and now a third, as it's only Anthrax and K6.
So it's all Boonsey who's been holding on to the site as Supremacy attempts to push in, ignoring that top floor. And I can't help but feel this is not going to be very successful for them, but they are getting the plant because Archives wasn't held at all, and a double for K6. The diffuser planted, a 2 versus 5 turning into a 2 versus 3 with post plant. But Kanto will get his first kill in the round. Anthrax eliminated, that's the planter, so K6 going to have to ace or simply play the time in order to win. The Yokai drone will be killed. No, not killed. It actually hits the ceiling and disorients K6. This is becoming harder and harder for this final attacker. And lit up from behind, Uno will get that kill. ENCE win their first round of Bank as they disable that diffuser.
And what did it look like was about to happen yet again?
It looked like it was going to be a Supremacy round.
It did look like that. For the 4th round, it would have been Supremacy just clobbering ENCE across the board. I
mean, Boonsey 3 kills, and then because nobody is sitting in Archives or watching the Archive entrances from above, the last 2 attackers just walk in, kill 2, and get a plant. What?
I'm shocked on both attack and defense. I mean, the drone game of ENCE has not looked any better today, from my perspective, than it did in their matchup that found themselves in this position to begin with. And their only victory so far this season where they've actually looked like they were in a good position was against Oplon. That's it. Supremacy is beating them on, that is ENCE.
And what just happened to Oplon?
And Oplon got destroyed
Yeah.
It wasn't even close between them and IDK.
It was 2 rounds, I think, that Op1 managed to get away.
2 or 3 rounds or something along those lines.
Yeah.
It was a paltry sum. And now Supremacy was so close to yet again snagging around away from ENCE that ENCE had no reason to lose. It's no matter where they finish, if it's in Challenger League or if it's in Pro League, ENCE is going to be limping into one of these two, and Supremacy is looking absolutely triumphant at the moment. They have been a huge story. We have to pay them the credit that they deserve.
We also have to critique them for that last round, though, because what happened there? They tried to ignore the players on the top floor. Sure, they had some repels outside to try and pressure on that north side of the building, but they weren't taking the top floor despite clearly understanding there is a heavy emphasis up there for ENCE 3 players upstairs. Instead, they tried to push into the site. It didn't work for them because Boonsey was on fire. And they potentially, it could have been a different result had they addressed that site in the appropriate fashion. But yes, no, apart from that one round, the first 3 rounds of Supremacy have been absolutely amazing.
They've looked real good.
And we could see them pick up that torch yet again and just keep it going on this now, the 5th round of Bank.
But once again, being lost in the shuffle too is how this is a defensive showcase. There's only been one successful attacking round at the moment, and that was when CCTV was won by Supremacy downstairs. So we could see not just match point for Supremacy if that trend line continues, but there have been an overwhelming number of defensive victories on all 3 maps so far.
Yeah, and that's really telling of who you can expect to win this one, especially as K6 gets the lead-off kill onto Kantoraketti. And now the Zofia, a lot of disruption, no longer going to influence this round. And I don't even think a single lifeline was used.
No, that is a tough loss to have, and especially when Kanto has been so good over the last map and a half. ENCE is going to rely on a change of the guard here on this round because, I mean, you had Wilkie and Uno carry so hard on the first map, wasn't enough. You had Boonsey and Kanto carry on the second map, and when I say carry, it's a loose definition because ENCE did not have their lowest performers that far off. Supremacy has just always been a team who, even when 1 or 2 have died, they've still had the potential there to clutch out, as I mentioned earlier, whether it's K6 Dijus or Tactics. Now, being thwarted by some mute jammers, you can see that ENCE is still trying to edge their way closer to the site. A grenade is going to get tossed down, and it's going to be Alive who's going to get dropped, but is not finished off. And that is going to be a question as ENCE finishes him off. So they did know. The question was going to be, did they know if he was down? And Uno finds him easy peasy, evening things out. You've lost the Mira. And you can see they will rush in, but there's still a yokai drone up, and Boonsey will obviously feel its effects in just a second. Dijus takes out Wilkie. You'll see a C4 get tossed out. Anthrax is going to get pushed. Diffuser goes down. Panari gets a kill, and it's 3v3. They'll use that yokai drone in a post-plant, but where was it during the plant itself? Dijus finds Panari, and it's all up to Uno and Boonsey. Boonsey, who has next to no health, but Uno, with area superiority, will watch the hatch from above. Boonsey is finished off, and it is in a 1v3. The plant is down, but Uno, the newest member, will have to clutch the round for his team. At this point, Supremacy can just double up on that diffuser, start to work away. Uno breathes in some toxic gas, lays some fire down, but he's getting pushed. He sees one, he'll down K6, he drops, but Dijus will save the round, and Supremacy will easily go to match point. The defenders win again, and ENCE is 1 round away from Challenger League.
A great retake onto the site, what looked like, I mean, we had ENCE in full control. They had the plant down. Everything was going their way, and then as soon as Supremacy decides, okay, we're going to push back into the site, even after the diffuser's been planted, it's just kill after kill after kill for Supremacy, and very little in response from ENCE. What happened there? I mean, okay, I have to talk about the massive mistakes that were made by Supremacy in the early stages of the round. The yokai drone, still alive, not able to deny the defuse plant, even in the site being controlled by the Echo. The gas canisters, far afield from the defuse plant. The C4, useless. All of the anti-diffuser plant from Supremacy saw no result. And yet, regardless of all of that, and still lost the round after planting the diffuser because they couldn't muscle out and win their fights.
All of this is happening while Anthrax has 0 kills for Supremacy. using his gadgets and using his worth in a utility role, but not putting up on the scoreboard, you are essentially competing in a 4v5 in terms of pure fragging potential, though at the same time, Wilkie only has 1 kill, so I mean, it's very similar, but ENCE now finds themselves on the ropes, and the French are 1 round away from Pro League, a huge achievement for this team, who tried in vain before to get here and could not do so, given another opportunity, and it looks like this time they'll be able to close it out. They're going to start on attack, and ENCE will be downstairs in CCTV.
So, K6 gonna come from this back alley, and he's gonna just look to clear out some roamers, use his Jackal device to the best of his ability. So we haven't actually seen Jackal's utility be all that useful, despite seeing him quite a lot of rounds so far on Bank. And obviously the target in question here is gonna be Kanto. He's the one that will be likely hunted down most fervently by that Jackal. However, he's playing pretty far over on the west side of this top floor for Bank. But he's going to be pressured as well from the main lobby. Tactics, you could see, trying to find his way in here. Possibly moving over to Garage and Lone Office, though. I mean, regardless, we do need to see some roam clear coming from Supremacy. Despite this being a basement hold, ENCE are putting a lot of emphasis on that top floor. Look at this though. The drone game from Supremacy is going to allow Alive to have the information and knowledge that there is no one to hold this doorway. He knows he can push through here, and he's going to do just that. He's going to catch 1 off guard, and he has B-side control. Gets a second. Panari eliminated. It's 5 versus 3, now 2 versus 4. Uno finally finishes off Alive in the site, but it doesn't matter. Kanto coming back from the site from his own roam, and he's going to continue to even it out a little bit more. Deju's on the drop down. It's Kanto with 1 HP against the world. He has to clutch against 3 to deny this being ENCE eliminated from Pro League. Sees one in the hallway, misses the shots, but doesn't see any in response. Now he's got a good position, he's got a mirror window, sees another, doesn't click mouse 1, and now he's gonna try and rotate over to, no, kind of unsure where he wants to move. Goes to the hallway, goes for a pre-fire. Trying to give away his position and renegotiate, but it doesn't happen. K6 hits the shot, Kanto eliminated, and ENCE pushed into Challenger League. Supremacy in the 3rd map of this series, going 5-1, getting the win.
What's that saying about the curse having the final laugh? ENCE trading a championship and now down to relegations ever so far. An outstanding performance from Supremacy, and at the end of relegations, 6 matches, 5 Challenger League team victories. What an incredible weekend that we just saw, and Supremacy with a knockout performance. The French are once again half of European Pro League, and the defending champion